Good evening, and welcome back to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight, we'll drift into the quiet world of ancient Rome, not the Rome of war and glory, but the Rome that exhaled after the storm, when swords were sheathed, when the echoes of battle had faded into silence. What did Romans do with their days? Let's slow down together, breathe gently, and wander through the peaceful hours that followed the chaos of conquest. This is not a story of emperors or soldiers, it's a story of stillness, of simple lives beneath the same sky that watches us tonight. How are you this evening? I hope your day was kind to you. Maybe you're already resting in bed, or perhaps listening from another part of the world. Where are you joining from? What time is it where you are? Before we drift too far into the past, I'd love to invite you to support this little corner of calm history. Click like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll always find your way back here whenever you need a soft story to fall asleep to. When the wars ended, Rome did not go quiet all at once. It sighed, slowly. Soldiers returned home carrying memories heavier than their armor. The great city, so used to the noise of victory, began to rediscover its ordinary sounds: the clatter of sandals on stone streets, the laughter of children chasing each other through alleyways, and the soft call of merchants unpacking their wares. Life after war was not empty, it was healing. For many Romans, peace felt strange at first. The hum of battle had been replaced by the hum of daily chores. Farmers once drafted into legions found themselves tending olive trees again. Blacksmiths turned from forging weapons to shaping plows and hinges. The empire, vast and proud, settled back into the rhythm of labor and life. It was in these quiet tasks that Rome's true strength endured. In small towns beyond the capital, mornings began with prayerful silence. The sun touched the hills, and smoke rose from clay ovens. Mothers prepared meals, elders sat outside their doors, and the smell of earth and wheat filled the air. The same hands that once carried spears now lifted baskets, tools, and cups of water. These were ordinary acts, but they carried the weight of peace, the kind that rebuilds a nation. The streets of Rome were still busy, but differently so. Instead of marching soldiers, they were filled with craftsmen, traders, and children chasing pigeons through public squares. Fountains murmured softly, their water a gentle reminder of stability, the true gift of peace. It wasn't divine luck that brought comfort to these people, but the will of the one who gives rest after hardship. Artisans reopened their workshops. Clay took shape under patient hands. Mosaics bloomed again in courtyards. Painters filled walls with gentle colors, images, not of victory, but of gardens, fruits, and the simple beauty of daily life. It was as if Rome itself needed to remember how to breathe, and through creativity, people healed the unseen wounds of years spent in fear and uncertainty. As markets reopened, life's small music returned. The rattle of carts over cobblestones, the rhythmic tapping of a weaver's shuttle, the murmur of friends greeting one another after long separation. Peace had its own melody, subtle, steady, and kind. In this calm, Romans found something they had nearly forgotten: the sweetness of ordinary time. There were still scars, of course. Some families never saw their loved ones return. Yet even in grief, there was movement toward life again. The fields needed sowing, the walls needed repair, and so they worked not for glory, but for continuity. Each sunrise brought small acts of rebuilding, guided by gratitude for being alive to see another morning. As the days passed, the memory of battle softened into distant echoes. Rome was learning to be gentle again. The empire, for all its might, rested on the quiet persistence of ordinary people. People who rose early, worked hard, and sought comfort in the simple blessings that the Almighty placed within their reach. Bread, laughter, and the cool shade of an olive tree. Evenings in Rome carried a different rhythm after war. The city seemed to hum with a soft calm, as though it too was exhaling. The streets glowed with the fading light, shadows stretching across worn stones. In courtyards, families gathered again, speaking in quiet tones, sharing bread, and letting the warmth of peace settle into their hearts. The smell of herbs, oil, and baked grain filled the air, simple scents that reminded everyone of the comfort of home. The soldiers who had returned often sat alone in thought. Some watched the horizon, remembering faraway fields. Others turned their memories into stories, told gently to children who listened wide-eyed, learning about courage and fear, but also about the emptiness that follows both. These tales, soft and unembellished, became the quiet lessons of peace. As night deepened, the city became still. The sounds that once echoed with commands and shouts now softened into murmurs, the distant bark of a dog, the rustle of wind between walls. Lamps flickered through open windows, their light moving like slow fireflies against the darkness. The empire rested, but it was the peace of ordinary life, not of triumph, but of endurance. In the countryside, where stars shone more brightly, farmers sat near their homes, listening to the steady hum of insects. The fields stretched out like a dark ocean, whispering with the promise of another harvest. They no longer thought of war or conquest, only of rain, soil, and time. In their silence, there was prayer and gratitude for the chance to live quietly once more. Across the empire, the rhythm of work and rest returned. Markets reopened at dawn, workshops filled with sound, and schools welcomed back the laughter of children. Rome had always been great, but now it was alive again in the small moments, the brush of sunlight on marble, the chatter at a fountain, the cool shade beneath a fig tree. Greatness, it seemed, was not only found in battles, but in balance. Within homes, the evening fires glowed softly. Parents whispered to their children, reminding them to be patient, to be kind, to remember that peace is something earned and protected. The wisdom of the elders returned to its rightful place, not shouted in Senate halls, but spoken gently beside the hearth, where warmth met humility. Poets and thinkers began to write again, not about conquest, but about the passage of time. They found beauty in stillness, in how light danced across the river, in how the city breathed when no one was watching. Their words reminded Rome that peace could be as meaningful as power, and that reflection was a kind of strength too. By the river Tiber, fishermen cast their nets, as they always had, the ripples carrying faint echoes of laughter and conversation. The city's heartbeat was slow and steady now, as though time itself had stretched to allow everyone a moment to rest. Even the stones seemed to hold their breath, remembering the countless lives that passed over them, all searching for calm. And so, Rome endured not just through battles, but through recovery. The empire's strength was not only its armies or its marble walls, but its people's quiet ability to begin again. Every act of care, every hand that rebuilt, every voice that spoke softly into the night hall were threads in the vast tapestry of human resilience. The stillness after battle was not emptiness. It was renewal, in the hush that followed conflict. Rome found something purer than gloria, gentle rhythm of living, guided by gratitude, patience, and the unseen mercy of the one who grants peace after the storm. As the city slept, its dreams were no longer of conquest, but of rest, and in that rest, Rome became human again. Dawn arrives softly over Rome. The first light touches the rooftops, turning the tiles a gentle gold. The city is not yet awake, but it stirs, quietly, like a long sigh. Somewhere, a rooster calls. The air carries the scent of stone, warmed by yesterday's sun, mixed with smoke from early ovens. It is a new day in the eternal city, a day without parade or spectacle, but filled with the steady rhythm of life returning, step by step, breath by breath, in the narrow streets. Bakers are the first to move. They open their small shops, dusted in flour, their hands strong and practiced. The smell of bread drifts through the dawn air, a comfort that has never changed through centuries. Water sellers begin to fill jars from public fountains. The trickle of water becomes the city's morning music. Before speeches, before the noise of trade and politics, Rome begins with bread and water. The city's courtyards glow with the rising sun. Servants sweep the stones clean, chasing away yesterday's dust. In villas and modest homes alike, curtains are drawn back to greet the light. The rhythm of morning is shared across classes and streets, the patrician and the worker both stepping into the same cool air. The same sunlight under the same sky. In this quiet sameness, there is a subtle peace, a reminder of how simple beginnings unite them. Children begin their lessons as voices fill the air, soft recitations of Latin, the scratching of wax tablets, the patience of tutors. Learning was a kind of duty, not just for the future, but for order. Knowledge, like bread, was part of what kept Rome standing. Outside, birds gather near fountains, dipping their wings in clear water, as if to bless the morning before it fully begins. In the marketplace, merchants begin to arrange their goods. Fruits, olives, cloth, and pottery appear in tidy rows, waiting for the first customers. The colors are quiet earth tones, muted reds, the dull shimmer of bronze. The market is not yet crowded. For now, it's calm. The sound of a broom against stone, the clink of coins being counted, the slow rhythm of carts arriving from nearby farms all blend into a peaceful hum of ordinary life. The sun climbs higher, and the marble of the forum begins to shine. Senators will soon gather, their voices filling the public spaces with debates. But before that, the square belongs to the early risers, the old man sitting at the edge of a column's shadow, the mother carrying a basket of figs, the artist sketching the city as it yawns awake. It's a Rome of whispers, not of power, a city still in prayerful calm. At the baths, attendants start to prepare the fires that will heat the water for the day. The sound of splashing and sweeping echoes faintly through empty chambers. Though these places were meant for social gatherings, at this hour, they belong only to the workers, the unseen hands that keep Rome's comfort alive. Every task, though humble, feels sacred in the morning quiet. Near the river, fishermen pull in their early catch. The water reflects the soft pink of the sky. Boats drift lazily as the city's walls begin to glow. One fisherman murmurs a quiet prayer of thanks, not to the river itself, but to the one who placed its blessing there. Life's gifts, he knows, flow not from fortune, but from grace. The nets are heavy today. The roads beyond the city are alive with travelers, farmers bringing produce to sell, messengers on horseback, and pilgrims walking with dust-covered feet. The Appian Way stretches out like a ribbon of time, carrying stories both old and new. The sounds are gentle, the clip of hooves, the creak of wooden wheels, the steady pulse of daily movement. Even outside Rome, the world awakens in rhythm with its heart. By mid-morning, the eternal city is fully awake. The bells and chatter rise, blending into the sound of life itself. Yet, if you pause, just listen, you can still find moments of silence between footsteps, a brief hush between market calls. That's where Rome's beauty rests, not in its monuments or victories, but in the quiet breath between one task and the next, in the peace of an ordinary morning that keeps an empire alive. As the morning stretches into late light, the rhythm of Rome becomes steady and full. The streets, once soft and golden, now shimmer beneath the sun. Vendors call gently to passing customers, offering olives, bread, and herbs. The air smells faintly of rosemary and dust, of earth and stone warmed by centuries. It is not the grandeur of Rome that stands out now, but its humanity, the thousands of lives that move together like waves, each small, each vital. In shaded courtyards, scribes begin their work. The sound of quills scratching parchment is almost musical, soft and repetitive, a kind of meditation. Letters travel slowly, hear messages of trade, of family, of friendship carried across vast distances. A scribe pauses to stretch, to glance toward the light spilling through a window. Outside, the faint echo of a street musician's lyre drifts by like a wandering dream. For those of quieter lives, mornings are for tending to gardens. Small plots of herbs and flowers bring balance to the dense city. Leaves rustle lightly as a gardener waters the soil, and the scent of mint fills the air. Birds gather nearby, as if curious about the day's small rituals. Peace here does not come from power or wealth, it comes from tending something living, something that gives back with time and care. Down by the workshops, the sounds of tools begin to echo: a hammer shaping bronze, a potter turning clay, a carpenter smoothing wood. These are the heartbeats of the city. The workers rarely see their names written in history, but their craft endures longer than marble. Each strike, each motion, is a quiet devotion to creating something that will last beyond themselves. Children run between corners and alleys, their laughter mingling with the rhythm of footsteps. A teacher calls them back to focus, but their joy lingers in the air. In every age, childhood remains unchanged, the curiosity, the energy, the wonder of simply being alive. Watching them, one might forget that this is an empire at all. It feels instead like a village, wrapped in sunlight and sound. As the sun climbs toward its peak, the streets grow warmer. The citizens begin to slow their pace, seeking shade beneath archways and colonnades. Conversations soften, movements grow languid. A breeze drifts through from the hills, carrying the faint scent of pine and distant grass. It's the hour when Rome seems to pause, a quiet interlude before the busy noon. Water flows endlessly from the fountains, clear and cool. People gather there not just to drink, but to rest and listen. The sound of water becomes a comfort, steady and eternal, like the passing of time itself. It reminds them and us that life moves gently, even in the greatest of cities. The blessing is not in the monument, but in the flow that sustains it. In the distance, bells signal the coming of midday. Merchants begin to close their stalls for a while. The hum of the city fades into a calm lull. Some people sit in silence, others share small stories, laughter, or quiet prayers of gratitude. Rome breathes in, then out, as though the whole city takes a moment to simply exist without striving. Beyond the walls, the countryside gleams under sunlight. Shepherds guide their flocks, and farmers pause to rest beneath olive trees. From afar, Rome's marble glows like a mirage, a city both vast and gentle, alive and still. The world feels connected by the same morning light, the same patience, the same rhythm of breath and gratitude. And as the day moves toward noon, the eternal city stands not as a monument of power, but of endurance. Each hour, each humble act carries its own quiet strength. The Romans, in their daily lives, remind us of something timeless, that peace is not only the absence of war, but the calm found in work, in rest, and in the steady grace of another ordinary morning beneath the sky. The sun stands higher now, and the gentle quiet of morning begins to fade. The heart of Rome awakens the Forum, where voices rise and footsteps echo between tall marble columns. Once, this was a place of power, of speeches and laws. But today, we wander through it differently. Not as senators or citizens of old, but as quiet observers, tracing the hum of daily life that beats softly beneath the noise. At this hour, merchants begin to gather around the edges of the square. Wooden stalls creak under the weight of grain, cloth, and fruit. The air hums with conversation, gentle bargaining, friendly laughter, the sound of coins changing hands. It's not the roar of empire we hear here, but the steady rhythm of ordinary trade, the kind that keeps a city alive, one market at a time. Stone steps circle the Forum like an ancient theatre. Some people sit and watch as life unfolds before them. Philosophers share thoughts in low voices, scribes carry scrolls beneath their arms, and travelers pause to rest. The scent of wax, parchment, and warm dust mingles with the faint sweetness of honey cakes sold nearby. Rome's center isn't just a monument, it's a heartbeat. At one corner of the square, an old storyteller gathers a few children. His voice carries softly, telling tales of heroes long past, of journeys, lessons, and patience more than battle. The children listen, half dreaming, as the shadows of the columns sway gently over the ground. History itself feels alive here, not as something distant, but as something retold each day beneath the same open sky. Around the temples and arches, people move with purpose, but not haste. The clink of sandals on stone creates a rhythm, like footsteps in prayer. Men in simple tunics discuss trade, women carry baskets filled with fresh bread and figs, and the air glows with dust lit by the sun. Even the pigeons seem to circle with calm precision, as though they too follow the order of the city's pulse. At midday, the Forum becomes its brightest. The marble reflects the sunlight so strongly that some cover their eyes as they walk. For a moment, it feels timeless, columns stretching upward, shadows falling perfectly straight, and the sound of 1,000 small lives unfolding at once. To stand here is to feel how history breathes, not through kings, but through motion, through people simply being. The shops behind the Forum hum with life. Blacksmiths hammer quietly, shaping hinges and tools. Scribblers copy documents, sealing them with wax and care. Each doorway reveals a fragment of Rome's soul order, diligence, persistence. Every act, however small, contributes to the great mosaic of the city. It's not the monuments that sustain Rome, but the people who rise every day to keep it steady. As the afternoon light softens, a few poets gather near the fountain. They sit in the shade, speaking of words, of rhythm, of time itself. Their voices are calm, almost musical. They do not seek fame here, just thought, just stillness in the middle of the crowd. The sound of flowing water joins their quiet speech, blending together in a slow, steady song. In another corner, a farmer speaks proudly of his harvest. He has traveled for days to sell his olives and grains. He does not look up at the marble statues or the grandeur of the temples. His world is the soil, the rain, and the patience of seasons. Yet, standing here, even he feels part of something greater, not through power, but through the quiet dignity of his work. And through all this, the Forum remains alive, not as a symbol of empire, but as a place where humanity gathers, where lives cross for a moment before partying again. Voices rise and fade, dust drifts through sunlight. Each person leaves something unseen behind, a trace of movement, a fragment of sound, a memory. And so, the heart of Rome continues to beat, softly, endlessly, like time itself. As the day continues, the forum grows warmer. The stones beneath the sandals of hundreds begin to hold the heat, and the voices rise in gentle waves. Shadows shorten and stretch again as clouds drift above the city. From a distance, the hum of life sounds like a living instrument, soft, constant, and endless. It's easy to forget that this is history's stage. Today, it feels only like a marketplace of moments, alive and breathing. At the steps of a small shrine, a mother pauses with her child. She whispers a short prayer, not to the stone before her, but to the Almighty, the One who allows all things to exist and endure. She prays for health, for patience, for another day of bread and peace. Her voice is soft, barely a breath. Around her, the crowd moves on, unaware, yet this tiny moment carries more truth than any triumph carved in marble. Nearby, an old man sits beneath a column, his back straight, his hands folded on his knees. He watches the people, every face a story. Once, he says, he too walked quickly through the forum, carrying worries that now seem small. He smiles faintly, realizing that Rome, for all its greatness, was always built on the passing of ordinary hours. Time, he thinks, is the only empire that truly lasts. As the sun begins to tilt westward, traders begin to pack their goods. The chatter softens into murmurs, the ring of coins fades, and the square empties slowly. Dust rises in the air where feet once moved. The marble gleams less brightly now, painted with the amber tones of afternoon. Even the pigeons settle, wings folding against the still heat. The forum exhales once more. A group of workers sweep the ground, gathering stray leaves and scraps of parchment. Their brooms move in rhythm like a quiet ritual. Each stroke seems to erase the day's noise, leaving only calm behind. By the fountain, the sound of water continues unchanged, eternal in its patience. Its flow has seen centuries come and go, and yet it hums the same steady tune of peace. In the shade, two philosophers linger, speaking softly about virtue and the nature of time. They do not argue, only reflect. Their hands move slowly as they talk, sketching invisible circles in the air. Around them, the city glows with a golden haze. What they discuss is not empire, not glory, but balance, the kind that keeps both man and city standing through change. When the bells ring from a nearby tower, the sound rolls gently across the square. People turn their heads for a moment, then continue on their way. The tone is neither commanding nor urgent. It simply marks another passing hour. And somehow, that sound, simple as it is, feels like the heartbeat of the city itself, steady, ancient, and mercifully calm. A group of children run through the nearly empty forum, their laughter echoing off the stones. They weave between columns, pretending to be heroes, explorers, or scribes. Their voices fill the empty space that, moments ago, was heavy with trade and talk. It's as if life itself refuses to fade, finding ways to keep moving, keep playing, keep remembering. As twilight approaches, the forum changes once again. The marble cools, and long shadows stretch across the square. Lamps flicker in nearby homes. The city quiets into its evening rhythm. What was once bustling is now a serene sanctuary of echoes. where footsteps fade into whispers, and the hum of the day dissolves into rest. In that stillness, Rome feels timeless. The Forum, once a place of speeches and decrees, becomes something simpler, place of breath and silence. The empire's heart no longer beats with conquest, but with calm endurance. And as the sun slips behind the hills, the city exhales again, ready for the gentleness of night, and for the quiet stories that only peace can tell. When the morning quiet fades and the sunlight grows warmer, the city of Rome moves into its rhythm of work, not the kind sung in poetry or carved into marble, but the quiet labor that keeps life steady. The sound of hammers, the turning of millstones, the brushing of brooms across stone floors, these are the real songs of the empire. They are soft, patient, and full of purpose. Beyond the grandeur of temples and monuments, most Romans lived by their craft. Some mended sandals worn thin from travel. Others shaped wood into furniture, smooth to the touch and simple in design. Clay workers molded jars that would carry water, grain, or oil, everyday objects, yet essential to life. Their names were rarely remembered, but their work endured far longer than any speech ever spoken. In the alleys near the Forum, the rhythm of industry blends with the hum of conversation. A blacksmith works in his small forge, sweat glistening in the heat, shaping metal into hinges and nails. Sparks fly for a moment, then vanish into the air. He pauses only to wipe his brow and whisper a quiet prayer of thanks for strength, for skill, for the chance to work another day. Near the river, women wash clothes by hand, their arms moving in gentle rhythm with the current. The water flows cool over smooth stones, carrying away the dust of the city. They speak softly to one another about family, about weather, about life. The river is both their tool and their companion, and though it is only water, they know it gives by the will of the one who placed it there. Further away, in the open fields beyond the city walls, farmers bend to their crops. The soil here is dry and rich, the sun warm but not cruel. Each row of grain, each olive branch, is tended with patience. Farming in Rome was not simply labor, which faith in motion, a quiet trust that what is sown in effort will be returned in mercy. Every harvest is a reminder that sustenance comes not from hands alone, but from grace. Inside workshops, shaded from the sun, carpenters smooth the edges of planks with steady movements. They carve, measure, and sand, the rhythm of their work, calm and precise. Wood dust hangs in the air like golden mist. A finished chair or table is not a grand creation, but it carries beauty, all the same beauty in usefulness, in care, in quiet perfection shaped by patience. The potters work nearby, spinning their wheels. Clay takes form beneath their touch, rising into smooth curves that will one day hold water, oil, or simple meals. The motion of their hands is almost meditative, guided by habit and trust. When one piece collapses, they begin again, never in anger, always with calm acceptance. The clay's shape, they know, is not entirely in their control. In the city's quieter corners, seamstresses stitch garments in the shade. The soft pull of thread through fabric creates a sound like rain. Each stitch, each fold, is a mark of care for someone they may never meet. Their work travels through the city clothing merchants, travelers, and families alike. Through their skill, comfort is passed from one set of hands to another. Even children join in small ways. They fetch water, carry tools, or gather fallen twigs for the fire. They learn through imitation, watching their elders with bright eyes. The idea of work is not a burden to them, it is a rhythm of belonging. Through labor, They understand their place in the world, the balance between effort and rest, between creation and gratitude. By midday, the sounds of work fill every corner of the city, yet it is not noisy. It is peaceful, steady, purposeful. There are no speeches here, no grand declarations, only the harmony of many hands moving with quiet discipline. The empire may be vast, but its strength is built not on glory or conquest. It is built on the patience of its people, on the faith and effort of ordinary hands. As the sun begins its slow descent, the light inside the workshops softens. Long shadows stretch across the walls, and the workers' pace eases. The air smells of wood, clay, and metal, earthly scents that remind them of the cycle of life. They know that each day's work, no matter how small, holds meaning. What they build today will serve someone tomorrow. That thought alone gives rest to tired hearts. In the crowded streets, vendors begin to close their stalls. The voices that filled the morning now grow quieter, replaced by the creak of carts and the slow shuffle of footsteps. A fruit seller arranges his last figs with care, even though few remain. It is not about profit anymore, but about pride, about doing every task with sincerity. Because work, in itself, is a kind of gratitude. Farther away, in the hills, shepherds guide their flocks toward home. The air grows cool, and the sound of bells follows them like gentle music. They have spent the day in solitude, beneath the wide sky, thinking of little but the movement of clouds and the steady rhythm of walking. Their peace is different from the cities. It comes from quiet observation, from knowing their place in a vast and ordered world. In homes across Rome, the fruits of this labor begin to appear. Bread baked from the farmer's grain, oil pressed from the grove, cloth stitched by patient hands. Everything that sustains life passes through many unseen workers. Their effort forms an invisible chain, binding the city together in balance, each one dependent on the other, each one contributing something vital to the whole. Even the city's streets bear the marks of daily care. Sweepers move through alleys, clearing dust and fallen leaves. It is slow work, uncelebrated and constant. Yet without them, the beauty of the city would fade. Their steps are steady, their focus calm. They do not seek recognition. Their satisfaction lies in order, in knowing they have kept their world a little cleaner than before. As the afternoon fades, the sounds of labor soften into rest. A potter washes his hands, a smith extinguishes the last flame of his forge. Their movements slow, but their hearts are calm. The day's work is done, and there is no rush, only the quiet pride of completion. The city itself seems to breathe easier, its energy shifting from effort to stillness. In the quiet corners of Rome, some pause to reflect. They look at the tools of their trade, the hammer, the brush, the worn apron, and feel gratitude. These tools, simple and familiar, are extensions of their purpose. Through them, they shape the world around them. Yet they know, deep down, that true provision does not come from skill alone, but from the one who allows skill to exist. As dusk approaches, families begin to gather. Tired hands wash clean, faces glow in the dimming light. The sounds of the day fade into the soft rhythm of evening, the murmur of conversation, the clink of clay cups, the laughter of children returning home. The city, which once hummed with work, now settles into peace, ready to rest before another dawn. From the high terraces, Rome glows beneath the amber sky. Smoke rises gently from chimneys, mingling with the golden haze of sunset. Every tower, every roof, every window tells the same quiet story of labor, of patience, of the simple dignity of those who build, mend, and nurture. The empire's greatness is reflected not in its emperors, but in these countless small acts of faithfulness. And when the last light fades, the city falls silent once more. The hands that shaped, lifted, and built through the day now rest. The hammers are still, the wheels unmoving. What remains is peace, the deep, calm peace of a people who have done what they could, who have worked with sincerity and trust, and who now surrender the night to the mercy of the one who grants both effort and rest. When the sun reaches its highest point, Rome slows. The air grows heavy with warmth, and even the most crowded streets fall into a hush. It is the hour when work gives way to rest, when the city takes its gentle pause. Shade becomes precious, found beneath archways, olive trees, or the long colonnades that line the public squares. Here, in this soft stillness, life feels suspended, peaceful, unhurried. The merchants close their stalls, their hands dusty from the morning's trade. They sit together in the quiet corners of the forum, sharing bread and a few calm words. The sound of conversation drifts softly, blending with the whisper of wind through stone. This midday calm is not laziness, it is renewal. A time to restore energy, to reflect, to remember that even effort must rest, just as the body needs sleep after labor. In the courtyards of Roman homes, families gather for the quiet meal of the day. The air smells faintly of grain, herbs, and olive oil. Simple food, eaten slowly, feels like a blessing. The laughter of children rises between the columns, soft and fleeting, while elders speak of harvests, neighbors, and time. These moments, humble and ordinary, are what keep the heart of the city alive. Some take refuge in gardens, where tall cypress trees cast long shadows over stone benches. The sound of fountains cools the mind, and leaves sway gently overhead. Here, one can think or not think at all. The peace of such places is not grand, but deep. It is in these small sanctuaries that Romans found balance, a reminder that strength comes not only from action, but from stillness. Writers and thinkers often sat in these shaded spaces, scrolls resting loosely in their hands. Some read philosophy, others merely observed. They watched the way sunlight shifted across marble, how ants carried crumbs along the cracks of stone. Their wisdom was born not from ambition, but from awareness. The quiet taught them more than the noise of debate ever could. By the river Tiber, fishermen rest beneath their boats, turned on their sides. The water glimmers with light, carrying soft ripples that shimmer like glass. They speak little, letting the rhythm of the current fill the silence. In these hours, the city feels far away. There is only the sound of wind, the faint buzz of insects, and the peace of knowing that time itself can slow, if one chooses to listen. In the shade of porticos, craftsmen take their break. A carpenter sits with his back against the wall, his hands still rough from work, a faint smile resting on his face. Across from him, a potter wipes the clay from his fingers, studying the patterns of sunlight on the floor. They do not speak much. The language of rest requires no words. Their silence is shared, easy, complete. Even the animals seem to understand this hour. Dogs lie curled near fountains, eyes half closed. Birds nestle among the branches, silent for a while. The whole city breathes slower, as if Rome itself has fallen into a light sleep beneath the sun. Nothing is lost in this stillness. It is a kind of harmony, a pause between effort and renewal. Not everyone rests, of course. Some continue their quiet tasks, scribes copying letters in the shade, or women weaving in the cool of their doorways. But even their work seems gentler now, touched by the calm of the day. The sound of the shuttle moving through thread feels like music, slow and steady. It is as if the heat itself has taught the city to move with patience. And so, the hours pass softly. The sun above blazes, but in the shaded corners, there is calmer balance between motion and stillness. This, too, was Rome's secret. Not only the power to build and conquer, but the wisdom to pause, to let the world rest for a while. Under the warm silence of noon, even the empire seems to bow to peace. As the afternoon light begins to soften, the mood of the city remains gentle. The air is still warm, but the sharp brightness of midday fades into a golden calm. The quiet voices of those resting turn to soft laughter, slow conversations, and the distant clink of pottery. It is a time that belongs neither to work nor to sleep, only to being, to breathing, to existing in peace beneath the shade. In one corner of a courtyard, two friends play a board game on a low stone table. Small pieces made of bone and glass move slowly across the grid. There is no hurry, no prize. The joy lies in the rhythm, the gentle pause, the shared smile, the light teasing when one makes a clever move. These are the kinds of moments that never reach history books, yet they are what made Rome truly human. A poet sits by a window, watching the sunlight ripple across the tiled roofs. He writes not of conquest or triumph, but of the sound of the wind, the warmth of bread, the way silence can soothe a restless heart. His words are not meant for fame, they are for the soul. Through the stillness of the hour, he finds meaning in simplicity and comfort in the steady passage of time. In shaded courtyards, servants pour cool water into clay cups. The faint splash echoes through the stone halls like a song. The drink offers relief from the heat, but it also reminds everyone of something deeper. That refreshment, like all blessings, is not earned by might, but given by mercy. They drink slowly, thankful for the quiet gift of water in a thirsty world. Along the streets, old men sit together beneath awnings, their voices low and unhurried. They speak of years long gone, of friends who have passed, of lessons learned slowly. Their laughter is soft, their pauses long. They no longer rush to speak, because they know time itself will carry their thoughts further than words ever could. Their peace is the kind only age can teach. At the edge of the forum, a musician tunes his small lyre. His fingers move lightly over the strings, coaxing out a melody that drifts into the warm air. The tune is simple, almost like a whisper. People nearby listen without speaking, their eyes half closed. The music does not demand attention, it simply exists, weaving through the moment like a prayer carried by sound. Children begin to stir again as the heat lessens. Their laughter returns to the streets, bouncing between walls. They chase one another around columns, their voices rising like songbirds. The grown-ups smile but do not stop them. In their joy, the city feels alive again, light, playful, renewed. Rest has done its work. The spirit of the day begins to move once more. In the gardens, the scent of jasmine grows stronger. The leaves shimmer in the low sun, and bees hum lazily among the flowers. The fountains sparkle again as the air cools. There is movement now, but still no rush. The transition from rest to rhythm feels natural, as though the city itself knows when to wake and when to dream. By late afternoon, people begin to reopen their shops and workshops. The hammer strikes again, the wheel turns once more, but with softer energy. The pause beneath the shade has restored them. Their minds are calm, their hands steady. Rome breathes in harmony with its people and empire, not built only on labor, but on the wisdom of knowing when to rest. As the shadows grow long and the first cool breeze touches the city, the sound of life returns gently. The day will continue, work will resume, and duties will call but for a few golden hours. Rome remembered what peace feels like. The empire, for all its might, found beauty not only in its monuments or victories, but in the quiet shade of an afternoon where everyone, from the greatest to the humblest, simply rested in the gift of stillness. As the afternoon fades into soft light, Rome's energy begins to turn inward. The noise of the streets softens, the scent of bread and warm stone fills the air, and doors begin to close behind families returning home. Inside these walls, life slows again. For all the empire's power and grandeur, it is here, in the quiet corners of Roman homes, that its true heartbeat can be heard, steady, human, and full of warmth. A Roman home was more than shelter. It was a world within a world. The courtyard, or atrium, was the heart of it, open to the sky, where sunlight poured down and rain fell into a shallow pool below. The air was cool, the sound of water soft. Around it, rooms opened like petals, each one alive with quiet activity. It was a design meant not for show, but for peace and order. In the early evening, families gathered in these spaces to share their meal. The table was simple bread, fruits, and herbs, perhaps fish or grain when fortune allowed. The food was never wasted, it was respected. Every bite felt like a small mercy, a reminder that sustenance comes not from wealth alone, but from the will of the Almighty who provides for all. Children sat close, listening as parents spoke softly of the day. They learned about patience, honesty, and gratitude. No great speeches were given, just stories and lessons woven naturally into conversation. The warmth of the lamps flickered on their faces, and the home, though humble, felt like a place of calm protection from the restless city beyond. In the corners of the courtyard, small clay lamps burned gently. Their glow was steady, their scent faintly of oil and earth. The light was neither bright nor dim, just enough to guide the eyes and ease the mind. The shadows that danced on the walls made the space feel alive. It was a light not meant for show, but for peace, a gentle rhythm between day and night. The walls of Roman homes told stories too. Mosaics and frescoes covered them, not of conquest or kings, but of gardens, birds, and fruit. Everyday beauty, simple, familiar, restful. These images reminded families of balance and blessing, of how peace could be found not in luxury, but in noticing the small wonders that fill each day. In a quiet room nearby, someone might be reading. Scrolls of poetry or history rested on wooden tables. The sound of parchment unrolling filled the silence like a whisper. Reading was not only for learning, it was a form of reflection. The mind, gently guided by words, found calm in understanding how life moved through time, and how the present moment, fleeting as it is, always mattered. Elsewhere, a mother prepared small jars of oil and herbs for the coming week. The smell of rosemary and lavender filled the air. She moved slowly, carefully, her motions practiced and sure. These were the unseen rhythms of care, the simple acts that kept a household whole. Her hands were steady and her face serene, carrying the quiet dignity of someone who served without being seen. Outside the walls, the world might still hum with the noise of carts and conversation, but inside, all felt safe. The walls were thick, built to hold warmth in winter and cool air in summer. The architecture itself seemed to understand the need for balance. It embraced those within it, giving them a small piece of peace that even the largest empire could not command. As dusk settled deeper, families began to draw nearer to the courtyard once more. Voices softened, laughter dimmed, and silence grew kind. the last light of day shimmered across the pool of water at the center, reflecting faces that were calm, content, and thankful. The home, small as it was, carried everything they needed: shelter, love, and the quiet grace of being together. As night settles over the city, the sound of Rome softens to a distant murmur. From the courtyards, the faint splash of water remains, the last reminder of daylight. The lamps glow like small stars inside the walls, their light dancing across mosaics and stone. A calm hush spreads through every home, a rhythm shared across the city. The world outside may still move, but within these walls, time itself seems to pause. In the smaller rooms, children drift to sleep. Their beds are simple woven mats or wooden frames, but the comfort is real. The air carries the scent of oil lamps and clean linen. Parents whisper softly, making sure all is well before quiet settles completely. The day's lessons, laughter, and little troubles fade into dreams. For the families of Rome, this hour feels sacred, the moment when effort gives way to peace. In one corner, a father writes a letter by lamplight. His quill scratches gently against parchment, words flowing in slow, thoughtful strokes. He writes not of politics or power, but of home, of the harvest, of his children's laughter, of gratitude for another day spent safely. His writing is a reflection, a quiet offering of thought before rest takes him to. Across the courtyard, the soft hum of weaving continues for a little while longer. A mother finishes a piece of cloth, her hands steady even in the dim light. She folds it carefully, knowing it will warm someone in the coming months. The act is simple, but filled with love. In this city of marble and empire, it is the unseen hands that hold everything together. The walls of the house glow faintly, warmed by firelight. Shadows move across them like gentle waves. Outside, the distant sound of hooves fades away and the night air cools. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then silence returns. Rome rests, its grandeur dimmed beneath the softness of human stillness. It is in these hours that the city feels most alive in its quietest form. Above the courtyard, the stars appear slowly, points of silver light framed by the open sky. The reflection in the pool below looks like another sky resting in water. For those who pause to watch, it feels like a moment of closeness to creation itself. Reminder that beyond all effort and ambition, peace remains the truest form of wealth. A servant extinguishes one lamp after another, leaving only a single flame burning near the fountain. The home darkens, and cool air begins to drift through the open halls. The family gathers one last time, saying words of thanks for the day that has passed, and for the strength to meet the one to come. Gratitude, as gentle as a whisper, fills the space more deeply than sound ever could. The last of the work is done, the last words spoken. Only the soft crackle of a small fire remains. The scent of oil, clay, and warm bread lingers faintly in the air. These are not grand things, but they are enough. In the stillness of night, every household in Rome, rich or poor, rests under the same sky, seeking the same mercy, wrapped in the same quiet. Beyond the walls, the streets are nearly empty now. The moonlight spills across cobblestones, and the fountains continue their eternal song. The city that once echoed with commands and triumph now whispers only peace. The breath of its people rises and falls like the tide, steady and calm. The empire sleeps, held together not by power, but by the rhythm of lives lived simply and sincerely. And as the final lamps fade, the homes of Rome settle into complete silence. The air is still, the stars clear above. In this hush, The empire's greatness seems small compared to the peace of a family resting after a long day. Here lies the truest legacy of Rome, not in its marble or might, but in the soft, enduring grace of the human home, where gratitude lives quietly beneath the same sky we share tonight. As the stars begin to shimmer over the rooftops of Rome, a different kind of quiet awakens. The noise of trade and footsteps has faded, but the city is not asleep yet. In the glow of lamplight, people gather in courtyards, by fountains, or beneath the soft archways of their homes. The day's labor has ended, but the mind is still alive, curious, thoughtful, drawn to stories and reflection. This is Rome at its gentlest hour, when the empire thinks instead of acts. In one corner of the city, a group of friends sits together beneath a fig tree. The air is cool, scented with evening earth and oil lamps. One of them begins to speak, a storyteller, old and calm. His voice carries softly through the night. He tells not of battles or emperors, but of life's small wonders, of friendship, patience, and how even the simplest days can hold meaning. The listeners lean closer, the rhythm of his words soothing as the river nearby. Elsewhere, a scholar unrolls a scroll, his fingers tracing the ink of ancient words. He reads quietly to his students, who listen with half-closed eyes. The lessons are not about power or wealth, but about balance, the art of living wisely and gently in a world that never stops moving. His tone is slow, deliberate, like the steady rhythm of thought itself. Wisdom, he reminds them, grows not from age alone, but from humility. In the courtyards of the wealthier homes, philosophers meet beneath torchlight. They do not argue loudly as people imagine. Their voices are calm, almost meditative. They ask questions about virtue, duty, and peace, questions that drift through the air like soft incense. To them, the goal is not to win a debate, but to understand how to live well. Even in ancient Rome, the quiet search for truth was as human as sleep. Beyond the walls of the city, in a small village, an old woman tells stories to the children. Her voice trembles slightly with age, but it carries a warmth that no book could match. She speaks of the past, of the rise and fall of seasons, and how kindness outlives power. The children rest their heads on their arms, listening until their eyes grow heavy. In that moment, storytelling becomes prayer, gentle, human, eternal. Along the riverbank, a man walks alone, lost in thought. The stars reflect in the Tiber's slow-moving water. He watches the ripples and thinks about how life, too, moves in circles, how every joy and hardship eventually returns to peace. The night teaches him more than any scroll could. The world feels vast, yet his heart feels at ease, aware that even in silence there is wisdom. Inside homes, families share their final moments of the evening together. Some speak of ancestors, of journeys taken long ago. Others simply sit in silence, letting the calm of the night settle around them. There is a beauty in these hours when no one rushes, when words are few, and when thought itself feels like an act of worship. A poet sits near the window, writing by the dim light of an oil lamp. His lines are not about power or glory, but about stillness, the kind that lets the heart see clearly. He writes of rivers and stars, of how the Almighty grants both movement and rest in equal measure. His words are quiet, meant not to impress, but to soothe. Poetry, to him, is another form of prayer. In another part of the city, a teacher ends his evening lesson. His students bow their heads, not in obedience, but in gratitude. The teacher reminds them that wisdom is not found in knowing everything. It is found in knowing when to listen, when to pause, and when to be kind. The lamps flicker, their light reflecting in thoughtful eyes. The city outside fades, but the lesson remains deep and still. And so, across Rome, as the night deepens, thought and peace move together. The same streets that echoed with labor now hum with reflection. Words are soft, laughter gentle, hearts at ease. The empire that once conquered nations now sits quietly beneath the stars, seeking something far greater than victory. Understanding. The night deepens, and the lamps burn lower. The air grows cooler, carrying the faint scent of the river and the olive trees that fringe the city. In the stillness, the conversations soften into murmurs, then into silence. One by one, people return to their thoughts. The words spoken tonight about life, patience, and virtue linger gently in their minds. Wisdom in Rome was never a loud pursuit. It lived in quiet hearts and calm understanding. A young man walks home through the empty streets, replaying a philosopher's words in his memory. They were simple, yet they weighed more than gold. Peace begins within the self, he had said, and from there it touches the world. The young man smiles to himself. The city around him feels different, now less like stone, more like breath, alive in its quietness. He carries the thought home like a small flame, a light for his own path. In a modest home near the hills, a mother sits with her daughter by the doorway. The moonlight spills across the floor. They do not speak much, only a few soft words about the day gone by. Then the mother tells her a simple story, not of heroes, but of kindness, of how patience opens doors that strength cannot. The girl listens, her eyes half closed, the story folding into her dreams. Farther away, a teacher sits alone, his table covered in scrolls. He pauses in his writing to look at the night sky. The stars seem endless, each one a silent reminder of how small human worries are. He whispers a quiet praise to the creator of all things, the one who gave people minds to wonder and hearts to feel. His gratitude is not grand or spoken aloud. It lives quietly within him, as steady as his breath. At a nearby fountain, two travelers share stories of distant lands. They speak of deserts and mountains, of storms and calm seas. Their words drift into the air and dissolve like mist. What they seek is not adventure, but connection, to know that wisdom exists everywhere, hidden in both struggle and stillness. As they fall silent, they realize the greatest journey is inward, where peace truly begins. The poets of the city continue their work even as others sleep. Their quills move slowly, capturing the texture of the night, the hush of leaves, the reflection of stars on water, the sound of silence itself. They write to remember that beauty and thought can survive even in restless times. To them, every word is a seed, planted quietly in the soil of tomorrow's mind. Somewhere, in the narrow alleys near the Forum, an old scholar closes his final scroll and smiles faintly. His eyes are tired, but his heart is light. He has spent the evening not chasing knowledge, but resting in it, understanding that all learning is but a path toward humility. He places the scroll aside and whispers a short prayer of thanks for the peace that follows reflection. As midnight approaches, the city feels weightless. The hum of life has faded completely, replaced by the soft sound of wind moving through the olive branches. The Forum, once full of debate, lies silent under the moon. It is a moment beyond words, when thought and rest become one. The soul, no longer seeking, simply is. From the highest hill, Rome glows faintly beneath the stars. Its walls and towers seem smaller now, as if humbled by the vastness of the sky. Yet within that humility lies beauty, the kind that comes from knowing that wisdom is not in greatness, but in grace. The city, vast and ancient, rests beneath a truth as old as time, that knowledge without peace is noise, but peace with knowledge is light. And as the last lamps flicker out, the voices of Rome's thinkers fade into dreams. The city sleeps in stillness, wrapped in thought. No triumph, no conquest, only the soft understanding that the greatest lessons are found not in victory, but in quiet reflection. The night holds them gently, as if even the stars are listening, patient, eternal, and kind. As the sun dips low behind the hills, the city of Rome exhales. The heat fades from the stones, and the air cools with the scent of dust, bread, and the faint sweetness of olives. Shadows stretch long across the streets, softening the hard edges of marble and brick. This is the hour when the city quiets not from exhaustion, but from peace. The empire, for all its size, feels small beneath the glow of evening. From the high terraces, the sound of life drifts gently downward. A pot clinks in a kitchen, a broom sweeps a courtyard, and laughter rises faintly from the narrow lanes. The sounds are soft, rhythmic, familiar. After a long day of labor and heat, the people of Rome begin to settle into stillness. Even the busy markets, once loud and full, now echo with calm footsteps and low voices, bidding one another good night. At the river's edge, fishermen pull in the last of their nets. The light on the Tiber ripples like molten gold, breaking gently against the shore. They move slowly, tired but content, their silhouettes outlined against the fading sun. They speak little, there is no need. The work is done, the day fulfilled, and gratitude lingers quietly in their gestures. Each motion feels like a prayer of thanks to the one who gives both work and rest. In the courtyards, lamps are being lit one by one. The small flames flicker against the darkening sky, like stars being born within the walls of the city. Their light is warm, patient, and constant. Families gather around them, their faces touched by gold. The lamps are humble, made of clay and oil, yet they carry the same quiet promise, that even in darkness, there is light enough to see the way home. Children run through the last glow of the evening, their voices soft and fleeting. They chase shadows along the walls, laughing until the dusk claims their games. Parents call them inside with gentle tones, and the streets grow quieter still. The sound of sandals fades, leaving only the whisper of wind through the olive trees. The city that once roared with ambition now hums like a lullaby. A baker removes the final loaves from his oven, the smell filling the air with warmth and memory. Bread, the simplest of all foods, becomes sacred in this hour shared, broken, and passed from hand to hand. In its softness lies comfort, and in its sharing lies faith. The people do not name the source of their blessings, but they feel it, the quiet certainty that all good things come from beyond themselves. Along the streets, neighbors greet one another softly, exchanging smiles and small words. They speak of the weather, of family, of small joys. There is kindness in their tone, a sense that the day, no matter how tiring, was enough. The sound of human connection carries through the dusk more tenderly than any song. It is the music of peace, unplanned yet perfect. From a window high above the forum, a poet watches the city below. He hears the faint sounds of life hooves in the distance, laughter behind walls, the sigh of the river. He begins to write, not about Rome's power, but about its stillness. To him, the truest beauty lies in these quiet hours when people return to themselves. In this piece, he feels the pulse of something eternal. The birds return to their nests beneath the eaves. Their soft chirping fades into silence as the sky deepens to violet. The wind cools the air, carrying the scent of the sea far beyond the hills. The first stars appear tiny sparks that remind every watcher of the vastness above. Even in their busy world, the Romans could not ignore the heavens, so constant and patient, a reflection of a power beyond their own. And as twilight settles fully, the streets turn golden for a moment, then blue, then grey. The light fades from the stones, but peace remains. Rome, once the centre of noise and glory, becomes again a city of breath and shadow. The sounds of evening soft, fleeting, human linger like a melody that the heart remembers long after the song has ended. As night deepens, Rome becomes a city of murmurs. The last voices fade into the rhythm of the wind, and the lamps along the streets flicker in soft unison. The marble glows faintly beneath the moon, turning the grand columns and arches into silhouettes of memory. What was once the stage of empire is now a place of rest. The air feels lighter, filled with the comfort of completion. The city has done all it must for the day. In the homes of craftsmen, tools are laid aside, hands washed clean. Families gather for one last conversation, voices low, smiles small but real. They speak not of ambition, but of small blessings, a meal shared, a safe return, a cool breeze after heat. These moments, unnoticed by history, are the foundation of peace. They are what gives meaning to a life quietly lived. From the hills above the city, the glow of Rome spreads like a reflection of the stars. Smoke rises gently from the hearths below, curling into the night sky. The world feels still, yet alive in its calmness. Somewhere, an old man sits outside his home, watching the lights shimmer. He closes his eyes, whispering a word of thanks for time, for breath, for another evening to witness the beauty of ordinary things. The fountains never stop. Their steady flow becomes the lullaby of the city, a sound both ancient and soothing. The water glimmers under the moonlight, pure and patient. People passing by lower their voices, instinctively respectful of the quiet harmony it brings. In that sound, they find reassurance that life continues, that peace flows, even when all else is still. Near the river, the fishermen sleep beside their nets, their boats tied neatly to the shore. The waves move gently, rocking the wood like a cradle. The scent of water and salt fills the cool air. Their day of labor is over, and now they rest beneath the same stars that once guided them home. The river, timeless and faithful, carries their dreams along its silver path. In the city's center, the forum lies empty, bathed in pale light. The stones that once held the footsteps of senators and soldiers now hold silence. Every echo has vanished, replaced by the soft hum of the night. The past seems to breathe their reminder that every place of power eventually becomes a place of peace, and that even the greatest of empires must learn to be still. Within the walls of quiet homes, sleep begins to take hold. The hum of insects replaces the sounds of talk and work. A mother hums softly to her child, her song no grand melody, but a whisper of love. In that sound, the essence of Rome survives not in marble or might, but in the tenderness of a mother's voice guiding her family toward rest. The night wind moves through the olive trees, carrying the fragrance of the hills into the city. Curtains flutter, lamps burn low, and the first hours of true silence begin. It is a silence that feels alive, not empty, a space where the heart can breathe, where the mind can wander gently between thought and sleep. From far away, a single bell rings a slow, resonant note that fades into the night air. It does not mark time or duty. It feels more like a reminder that every day, no matter how busy or burdensome, ends with the mercy of rest. And in that rest, there is renewal, as steady and certain as dawn. And so, Rome sleeps. The empire's walls, the fountains, the fields all lie beneath the same serene sky. No triumphs, no speeches, no sound of battle, only peace, only breath. The city's heartbeat slows to the rhythm of the night, and for a few sacred hours, every soul, from the humblest to the highest, shares the same quiet gift, the stillness of evening and the promise of another gentle morning to come. Morning comes again, soft and golden. The city of Rome awakens beneath a calm sky, the same sky that has watched over generations. The sounds of life begin once more, footsteps on stone, carts creaking, laughter rising faintly in the distance. It feels ordinary, almost unremarkable. Yet in this ordinariness lies the quiet legacy of Rome, not in its wars or its monuments, but in the rhythm of its daily life, the simple acts that built an empire of endurance. The baker opens his shop, dusting his hands with flour as the scent of bread begins to fill the air. Across the street, a craftsman sharpens his tools, ready to begin again. The cycle repeats, unchanged and undramatic. But these are the moments that truly shaped history, the moments no one thought to record. Greatness, it seems, is built not in noise, but in patience. In the courtyards, children chase each other through beams of morning light. Their laughter echoes softly between walls that have seen centuries come and go. To them, the empire is not marble or maps. It is the safety of home, the comfort of routine, the love of those who care for them. In their joy, Rome feels eternal, not through power, but through innocence renewed each morning. Farmers outside the city bend once more to their work. The soil is warm beneath their feet, the air filled with the hum of insects. They do not think of history. They think of the next harvest, the next meal, the next rain. Their hands, steady and sure, sustain not just their families, but the city itself. They are the unseen roots of Rome, the living memory of diligence and grace. In the forum, merchants set up their stalls. The voices of the market return, gentle at first, then vibrant as the morning unfolds. People exchange goods, stories, and smiles. Coins pass from one hand to another, but so do kindness and laughter. These small interactions, the greetings, the shared meals, the honest work form the quiet fabric that holds civilization together. The city's scholars begin their day in study, their rooms lined with scrolls and parchment. They write slowly, recording not just the victories of emperors, but the details of life, the shape of a leaf, the flow of a river, the habits of the people they live among. They seem to understand that memory is sacred, that even the simplest day deserves to be remembered. Artists, too, play their part. They paint walls with scenes of gardens, carve stone into gentle shapes, weave color into cloth. Their art does not glorify war. It honors balance and peace. Through their craft, they remind others that beauty is a form of gratitude, a way to say thank you for the gift of existence. As the sun climbs higher, the city grows busier. The hum of work returns, steady and familiar. But beneath the motion lies calmness, a shared sense of rhythm, of purpose. Every movement, from a brush stroke to a farmer's swing of the plough, feels part of a greater harmony. Rome endures not by conquest, but by the grace of its ordinary people doing ordinary things with care. Even the fountains, endlessly flowing, seem to echo that truth. The water glimmers under sunlight, steady and pure. People come to drink, to wash, to rest. The fountains give without ceasing, their sound reminding all who pass that life to flows best when it is shared. When giving becomes part of being, by midday the city is alive again. Children's voices rise above the hum of trade. Birds glide between rooftops. Somewhere a poet watches it all and smiles, understanding that the beauty of Rome was never just its temples or power. It was this, the steady pulse of human life, carried out with quiet dignity under the endless mercy of the sky. As the afternoon unfolds, the light softens once more. The rhythm of the city slows, just as it began. Work continues, but with gentler hands. The air feels full and calm, heavy with the scent of grain, oil, and dust warmed by the sun. The city hums not loudly, but contentedly, as though it knows that peace itself is the truest mark of civilization. In the gardens, people sit beneath olive trees, sharing fruit and quiet talk. Their laughter rises softly through the leaves, blending with the song of birds overhead. They speak not of conquest or ambition, but of harvests, of the weather, of family. Life, in its simplest form, carries enough wonder for those who know how to see it. In these moments, the empire feels vast, not because of its borders, but because of its humanity. A mason finishes repairing a small wall, wiping sweat from his brow as he steps back to look at his work. It's not grand, not monumental, but it stands firm and true. He smiles, knowing it will protect a family's home from wind and rain. This, too, is Rome's quiet endurance, care for what is near, faith in small things that last. Nearby, a mother hangs linen to dry. The cloth catches the light, swaying gently in the afternoon breeze. She pauses, watching it move, feeling peace in the simple beauty of the moment. The child beside her giggles, chasing a butterfly. Time, for a while, feels unbroken, just sunlight, laughter, and gratitude. These are the treasures that history rarely writes down, yet they are what hold a world together. As the day leans toward evening, the city breathes slower. The shadows lengthen across the forum, stretching like threads of memory. Merchants close their stalls, and the air fills again with the murmur of goodbyes. The sound of sandals on stone is softer now, almost like a rhythm of farewell between day and night. On the hills, shepherds return with their flocks, the bells of the animals echoing faintly through the fields. Smoke curls from chimneys, rising toward the orange horizon. From afar, Rome looks almost fragile in its beauty, vast, yet tender, powerful, yet fleeting. The empire's greatness, it seems, has always been held together by ordinary hands and patient hearts. The poets of the city know this truth. Their verses do not praise emperors or wars, but moments how the light touches water, how laughter fades into dusk, how peace endures quietly. Their poems are gentle reminders that every breath, every day, every humble act has meaning. That is the legacy that outlasts stone. When night arrives, lamps flicker once more across the city. The same soft light that shone on generations before glows again, warm and human. The people eat, rest, and prepare for another dawn. Rome sleeps not as a conqueror, but as a Homer living collection of memories, dreams, and hopes. And so, the empire continues, not in its monuments or battles, but in the continuity of ordinary days. The legacy of Rome is not carved in marble, but written in the lives of those who worked, rested, loved, and gave thanks. Their peace, their patience, their quiet endurance, these are the real pillars of history. If you've enjoyed this quiet journey through history, I invite you to subscribe and return next time. There's always another forgotten story waiting for you. In our next episode, we'll travel into the chill of forgotten winters and ask, how did people keep warm before central heating? Until then, rest well, breathe deeply, and let the echoes of ancient lives guide you gently into sleep.